Welcome to the US Daily Brief channel. The top commanders of the Russian army admitted defeat at the front. Unrest in Russia ignited as Ukrainian forces recaptured significant parts of Russian-controlled areas. When the war started, the Russian army, which was seen as the second largest military power in the world, could not bring the Ukrainian army to its knees, which is said to be a crash in a few weeks. On the contrary, it was a great shock that it was forced to withdraw day by day with successive defeats. As a result, before the war started, the general opinion was that Russia would reach its military goals in short time and even invade the whole of Ukraine. But now the Russian army's failure to show the expected performance for 8 months has created a complete disappointment for Putin and Russia. The Russian army and Putin are baffled by Ukraine. The fact that the Ukrainian army tried to defend its own country with great faith, motivation and enthusiasm intimidated the Russian army. Ukrainian soldiers on the banks of Oskil River in Kherson are gaining confidence as they believe that Vladimir Putin's forces have withdrawn. Kiev's troops are increasingly convinced that the tide of the war has turned into their favor and that the Russian troops are running out of ammunition. In May, troops from Ukraine's 14th Mechanized Brigade were struggling to stop the advancing Russian forces in the Donbass. At that time, Moscow forces could fire 5 or 7 times as many rounds as Ukrainian soldiers. But the last month, the same troops took part in the liberation of the Kherson region. Now the Ukrainian warriors have crossed the strategically important Oskil River and are preparing for the battle to liberate the neighboring Luhansk region. Despite the initial failure to recapture Kiev in the early stages of the war, Russian forces managed to gain territory, most notably the city of Mariupol. Moscow managed to gain ground after withdrawing its forces close to the Ukrainian capital and sending them to the eastern Donbass region. But the balance of power in the conflict now seems to have shifted in Ukraine's favor. Russian forces were routed in the Kharkov region in early September, and the survivors retreated behind the Oskil River to establish a new line of defense. In theory, this was a good move, as the river was a natural barrier between the Ukrainian forces and the Luhansk region. However, Ukraine's 14th Mechanized Brigade managed to cross the river in a few days with a heavy raid and completely blockaded the Russians. The siege and counterattack of the Ukrainian warriors against the Luhansk region continues with systematic and confident step. Russian and Ukrainian experts agree that the Ukrainian army is ready to launch the Russians from the key town of Savatov in the Luhansk region in coming weeks. Despite Vladimir Putin's partial mobilization, it is clear that the Russian forces lack ammunition. Soldiers from the 14th Mechanized Brigade expressed their confidence and opinion that the Russians were gradually weakening. They explained that they were discouraged and had less ammunition. The Russians are not like the Russians we fought on February 24. Russian soldiers are not as brave as they used to be. They just try to hit certain targets. On the other hand, the news that the enlisted soldiers died mysteriously before reaching the battlefield caused other concerns in Russia. In the last unexplained death of troops preparing to participate in Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, a mobilized Russian soldier was reportedly found dead. He reported that the soldier's body was found on the side of the Novosibirsk Higher Military Command School in Siberia. It is rumored that the man was from Novosibirsk and died as a result of acts of violence, according to his relatives. The name of the enlisted person and how long his stay in the unit are unknown. Investigators are investigating the deaths and not much information is given. The other day, news came that a 35-year-old volunteer from Irkutsk region of southeast Siberia, who was later learned to be Alexander Kolton, died in his sleep in the same place. His mother, Elena Zayuseva, said that she did on the 4th day of her stay in the unit. He was told on the phone that he died from low-quality alcohol and had been drinking there for a few days. But now they are talking about heart failure. But the truth is that my son has never abused alcohol, so he asked for the facts to be investigated. Interestingly, other deaths of troops mobilized are also emerging. It turned out that the body of a conscripted man in the Tyumen region of western Siberia was found on September 28 at the military assembly point. Meanwhile, human rights lawyer Pavel Chikov said on Monday at least 6 newly recruited soldiers have died since mobilization began in September. At an army training center in the Seversk region in western Russia, 3 people died, 1 died of a heart attack and the others committed suicide. 2 soldiers from the Kurgan region in southern Russia were confirmed dead. but the cause of death was not disclosed. Meanwhile, in the far eastern city of Vladivostok, 39-year-old Sergei Fodosenko died of a heart attack after being detained at a local recruiting office. The cause of all these deaths is not disclosed in detail, neither to the authorities nor to the families. Putin's mobilization of 300,000 reservists was filled with mistakes, such as the mistaken call of people to war. Criticism of the failed draft on social media increased the pressure on the Russian leader as the occupation of Ukraine waned. It seems that all these negative developments will have a heavy toll on Putin. Russian experts claim that the Russian leader fears being overthrown by his own people amid humiliating losses in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is caught in the middle of a crucial juncture in the Ukraine war, where all signals point to the humiliating Russian defeat. Putin's troops are failing on all fronts, and his attempt to strengthen his troops appear to have flopped as hundreds of thousands of soldiers fled the country. Putin is believed to have been aware of the major defeat he was facing. It's even seen that the reason Putin is at war, pushing aside the claim that he wants to recreate the Soviet Union, is that he needs a major distraction. Vladimir Putin is believed to have used the same strategy as the Ukraine war to divert the attention of Russian voters from the economic collapse caused by Western sanctions. As a result, it seems that the effect of economic pressure on people will last for a long time, and they will rise up at some point. It focused on that Russian President Vladimir Putin started this war to stay in power and is fighting because he fears that people will rise up. But Putin's power and ambition have only grown worse, corrupted, brutalized, imprisoned in a way, and it looks like he's going to lose the battle no matter what he does. It was something that initially started out of a popular war as humans were not involved in the war. The people were just watching from the sidelines cheering for him. Now all of a sudden he's recruiting everyone from 18 to 60. And I think 1 million people have fled the country, and everyone who doesn't care about all these human rights violations and blatant corruptions is now crying out for bloody murder because they are afraid to die at the front in Ukraine. In a sign of mounting tension, a member of Vladimir Putin's inner circle confronted the Russian president directly over mistakes and failures in the war. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov acknowledged there was disagreement over the war, but is trying to salvage the situation, saying it's part of usual work process. After Donetsk, a decision was made to evacuate in Lugansk, which was under the full control of Russia. Russian troops and their families are fleeing the area at their own expense. Luhansk governor Sergei Haidai said that Russian troops were withdrawing into depths of the region or towards Russian territory. According to the information given by the governor, the Russian occupying soldiers and their families left Stavono, leaving only pro-Russian separatist militaries in the district. It has been confirmed by the Russian authorities that 17,000 people fled Ukraine and took refuge in Russia in one day. The number of evacuees since last week has approached 120,000. In videos posted on social media, there are long queues of vehicles on the roads to Russia. Russia is currently in a rather weak position for the Ukraine war. If you want to follow the hot developments closely, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.